Good morning, dear friends. In the first lecture, we have discussed the theory part of the design of axial loaded column and the pad footing. Now, in the second lecture, we have discussed the design of axial loaded column with the uniaxial bending. None of the column is axial. Actually, column is subjected to certain moment due to non-homogeneity of material, inaccuracy in loading, accidental load. The column is not purely axial. Therefore, it is recommended that every compression member should be designed for certain minimum eccentricity. As per IS, we can say that Ex minimum is equal to L by 500 plus D by 30 or 20 mm, whichever is more. So, if this minimum eccentricity is less than or equal to 0.05 times D or B, then the column can be designed as axial loaded column. Otherwise, we can design as a axial load with uniaxial or biaxial bending. But if this criteria is not satisfied, then the column is designed as a uniaxial load with the moment, and this moment is equal to Ex minimum or Ey minimum multiplied by ultimate load Tu. So, in the design of axial loaded column with uniaxial bending, beside this, many times the column is subjected to eccentric load. Second, end moment due to monolithic connection of beam with columns. Such a column is subjected to either uniaxial moment or biaxial moment in addition with the axial load. Side columns are not only subjected to the direct load but also moment due to eccentricity in application of the load. Example, beams are along three sides and therefore moment develop only along one side. Such beams are said to be under uniaxial bending. Now, this is the example. Bisecting the depth, this is the D of the beam and this is the B of the beam, and that's why bisecting the depth is called as the major axis or bisecting the depth, and this is the minor axis or bisecting the width of the column. Here for the analysis we can use the SP special publication of IS code BIS, that is SP 16. In this case we should know the load on the column, grade of concrete, grade of steel, effective length of the column or unsupported length, and the end condition either MUX or MUY. Moment along the X direction, that is the major axis, or moment along the Y direction, that is the minor axis. Okay. Now in this case here it is observed that if subjected to the axial load with the moment MUX, if the beam is connected like this in this direction, then the eccentricity is shifted somewhere here. This is Ex. Ex is the moment, and moment is equal to Pu multiplied by Ex. That gives the moment, and that's why this column is subjected to the axial load along with the moment due to the eccentricity. Now, this is the along the Y direction. If the beam is provided in this direction, in that case there is a moment due to the unbalanced moment MUY, and this is the PU, and that's why this is the EY. This is the Y axis and this distance is EY. This is the moment about the minor axis. Now this is the interaction diagram, and this diagram it is observed that if the point C means the column is subjected to the purely axial load. Bending moment along X direction or Y direction is 0. And if you increase the load or moment, it is a straight line. That means from point C to B, we can say that it is a compression failure. Of course, the column is subjected to the axial load with the moment. But at point B, that is a balance failure. That means the compression as well as tension. And at point A, it is the tension failure. That means the column is not failed due to the compressive load, it is failed due to the tension, that means the bending moment. And that's why this is called as the interaction diagram. And using this interaction diagram, we can find out the steel provided in the column, axial loaded column. Now this is the first case, bisecting the depth of the column, that is the bending about the x-axis or major axis. First of all, we can assume the size of the column, then calculate axial load divided by FCK BD. Then step number 2, calculate the PU divided by FCK BD. First we have assumed the cross section. Then third one, MU bending moment along the x direction, MUX divided by FCK BD square, and calculate the cover to the reinforcement divided by capital D. From the charge given in SP16, depending on the DC by D grade of the steel, obtain the point of interaction of the PU by FCK-BD and MU by FCK-BD square, and interpolate the value of P by FCK, where P is the percentage of steel. FCK is known to you, we get the ASC, and once we know the ASC, we can find out the number of bars, assume the diameter, and calculate the ASC. Now this is the simple design of the axial loaded column with uniaxial bending. Now we have considered one problem. Now here design the reinforced concrete short column at D. This is the point where we can find out the steel and the cross section of the column at D. For the G+2 storied building, for the same data, the data which is used for the previous problem. Now for the load calculation using the actual load distribution, this is the point D or column D, and C to D, this is the one beam, D to E another beam in the same direction, and orthogonal beam is D towards the say F. This is 4 meter, this is 6 meter, and this is 9 meter, and this is the G+2 story building. This is the up to the ground level, this is up to the plinth level, this is the first floor, second floor, and the roof. So for the load calculation, we can transfer the load from the beam, slab, and the wall. Now this is the load calculation. First of all, load on the roof slab, that is the dead load and waterproofing load plus the live load. This is already given in the problem, that's why we can find out it is 7.75 kilonewton per square meter. Load on the floor slab, again dead load, floor finish load instead of waterproofing load, and the live load. It is 8.75 kilonewton per square meter. Then self weight of beam, that is B by capital D multiplied by 25, that is the cross section into density of the RCC. Then self weight of wall, thickness multiplied by height multiplied by density of brick wall, that is 20. Then self weight of column, that is B multiplied by D multiplied by L, total length, unsupported length of the column multiplied by 25. And then self weight of the column below the plinth level. Similarly, this is the load calculation of the slab, beam, and the wall. Step number 2, we can find out the load on floor beam. For B1, self weight of the beam plus load from the slab S1 and the load from the wall. Now in this case, for B1, the load calculation, this is trapezoidal, this is 6 meter, this is 4 meter, that's why beta divided by 2 beta plus 1, and here beta is equal to 6 divided by 4. For the B2, this is another beam, B2, here we have considered the load distribution is rectangular, that means it is a one-way slab, that's why 50% load will be transferred to the beam D. And for the D2F, this beam, triangular load from the two-way slab, and there is no load transfer from this slab because this is one-way slab. So we can find out the load on B1, B2, and B3. This is the load calculation over B1. Beta divided by 2 beta plus 1, that is the load is trapezoidal multiplied by WS, total load on the slab multiplied by LEX, and this is the wall load, self weight of wall load, self weight of the beam. We get the total load on the beam B1, that is 30.675. Similarly for B2, self weight of the beam, load from the slab, and the load from the wall, which is 13.80, and WB2 is equal to 35.05 kilonewton meter. Then WB3, self weight of the beam, again load from the slab S1 and S2, from S1 triangular load and from S2 there is no load, zero load, and that's why this is Ws multiplied by 0. And triangular load, it is Ws Lex divided by 3, and that's why we get the load on B3 beam, that is 29.22 kilonewton meter. Now we can transfer this load to the column. Now load on the column, top column, first of all the load which is above the column, which is 0, then summation of the shear from the beam, say B1, B2 and B3 plus self weight of the column, and so we get the total load on the top column is 318.75 kilonewton. Similarly, for the internal column, again this load plus load from the beam, then load from the uh, B1, B2, B3, and then wall load and the self weight. Similarly, load on the intermediate column is equal to 637.50, and for the ground column, repeat the same procedure, we get the 936.25 kilonewton, and for the column which is below the plinth level up to the footing, it is 1143.47 kilonewton. This is the total load below the ground level. Now we have designed the column at the ground level. Now the ground level load is 936.25. You can take the design load is equal to 1.5, that is the partial safety factor into PC. That's why it is 1404.375 kilonewton. Assume the size of the column, that is B by D is equal to 300 by 500. Then check the slenderness ratio, LE divided by least lateral dimension. Now here we have considered the ground level, that's why it is fixed at the top as well as bottom. That's why it is 0.65 times L divided by least lateral dimension 300. It is 6.5, which is less than 12. That's why this column is designed as a short column. Now step number 4, we can find out the Ex minimum and mu x. Ex minimum is equal to L by 500, unsupported length divided by 500 plus D divided by 30 or 20 mm, whichever is greater, and this value should not exceed 0.05 D. So it is 19.33, it is or 20, so we have taken Ex minimum is equal to 20 mm. Mex minimum is equal to Ex minimum multiplied by Pu, so this is 20 multiplied by total ultimate load, design load 1404.375 divided by 1000, because 20 mm we have converted in meter, so it is 28.087 kilonewton meter. It is Mex minimum. Similarly, Muy minimum is equal to Ey minimum, that is equal to L by 500 plus B by 30 or 20 mm. So it is 16 or 20. 20 is more, so we have considered 20. Again 20 multiplied this, we get the same value, that is 28.087 kilonewton meter. That is the moment along the y direction. Now we can find out the actual moment on the column from the plan. Along the x-axis bisecting the depth of the column, Mx is equal to, we have considered the stiffness column Kc divided by Kc plus summation of Kb by 2, because beam is connected with the 2 column, and that's why we have contribution 50% Kb by 2 multiplied by summation of moment along the x direction is equal to Kc divided by Kc plus, there are 3 beam, that's why Kb1 by 2 plus Kb2 by 2 plus Kb3 by 2 into EMF B2 minus MF B1. These two beams are in the same line, that's why we have take the bigger beam on the first side and a smaller beam on the second side. That means the moment of these two beams. Then moment of inertia, IC is equal to BD cube by 12 and Kc is equal to I by L, because it is fixed. So we get the 1.042 into 10 raised to the power 6 moment of inertia for the beam. Repeat the same procedure. BD cube divided by 12, this is 300 by 500, that's why again same, and Kb is equal to moment of inertia of the beam divided by L. So we get the 5.20 into 10 raised to the power 5 for all the beam. Kb2 is equal to Ib by L2, length is different, that's why this is 900, so it is 3.47 into 10 raised to the 5. Kb3 is equal to Ib by L3, L3 is 4 meter, so it is 7.81 into 10 raised to the power 5. Similarly, from this we get the EMF B1 beam, which is fixed moment is equal to W L square divided by 12. So it is 92.025. For B2 it is 236.59 because the span is 9 meter, and for B3 fixed end moment for the third beam which is orthogonal, that is 38.96. So mx is equal to again this factor distribution multiplied by moment, net moment. So we get mx is equal to 80.73 kilonewton meter. Similarly we can find out the my. Here it is observed that mu x is equal to 1.5 times mx, that is equal to 121.09, and mu minimum, that is ex minimum multiplied by pu, which is 28.085. So mu x is equal to 121.09. Again for my, repeat the same distribution, carry over, and this mfb. Only one beam is there, and that's why it is 21.75. As MUY is less than MUY minimum 28.075, so we can design column with uniaxial bending along XX axis or major axis, that is 121.09. So moment is known to you, load is known to you, then we can find out the bisecting the depth of the column, that is along XX axis. We can find out the PU by FCK BD, then MU by FCK BD square, and calculate D dash divided by D, that is the cover to the reinforcement. Here we have considered 40 mm is the cover and the diameter is 20 mm, 20 by 2, 40 plus 20 by 2, it is 50. So 50 divided by 500, that is 0.1, and this chart is available, that is chart number 44. From the chart given in SP16, chart number 44, depending on the DC dash by D ratio, grade of steel, obtain the point of interaction between the PU by FCK BD and MU by FCK BD square, and interpolate the value of P by FCK. Assume equal distribution of the reinforcement. There are two types of reinforcement. One is the opposite side reinforcement provided equally in the opposite side, and second, four sides there are equal reinforcement. Here we have considered the four side. This is the interaction diagram. This diagram is related with x-axis mu divided by FCK-BD square, and this is pu divided by FCK-BD, and this is the equal reinforcement on all the four sides. Fy is equal to 415, and this d dash by d, that is equal to 0.10. So from this chart we have considered the value of pu by FCK-BD, and from this mu by FCK-BD it will intersect somewhere here, and this line indicate the P by FCK. So from this for 0.10 DC, that is the effective cover, divided by D, pu by FCK-BD is equal to 0.468, mu by FCK-BD square is 0.081, and P by FCK is 0.08 from the curve charts. So P is equal to 0.08 multiplied by FCK grade of the concrete 20, we get 1.60. That means the percentage of steel is 1.60. Always, which is greater than the ASC minimum, that is 0.8%. So from this formula we can find out the area of steel, longitudinal steel, that is P multiplied by cross section of the column divided by 100, which is 2400. Then assume the diameter 20 mm as longitudinal reinforcement, so find out the number. It is 7.64. So we can provide the 8 bars as longitudinal reinforcement. Similarly, once we calculate the longitudinal reinforcement, we can find out the diameter of the lateral tiles. There are two criteria. 1/4 of the phi maximum, we have used the same diameter, that's why 1/4 of 20, it is 5 mm, and second is 6 mm, whichever is greater. So we have considered diameter of the lateral tile is 6 mm. Spacing of the lateral tile, that is equal to, there are three criteria. One is the least lateral dimension, that is 300 mm. 16 multiplied by 5 minimum, that is again 20, that is 320, and third is the 300 mm, whichever is less. So here 300 is the least value. So provide 8 mm diameter at 300 mm center to center. Here also we can use the 6 mm also. Center to center as lateral tiles. Now this is the design of the column. Once we have designed the column using the charts SP16, we can design the isolated footing. Now for the isolated footing, load on the column which is below the plinth level, that is 1147.50. Here we have round up to 1150, and FCK is equal to 20, Fy is equal to 415, and shape bearing capacity is given 200 kilonewton per meter square. So we have required the cross section of the footing, depth of the footing, and then ASTX and ASTY. Now calculate the load on the footing. Load on the footing is equal to, here when we design the footing, we have considered the limit state of serviceability. But that's why we have considered the actual load on the column instead of the ultimate load. So here actual load plus self weight of the footing considered as 10%. So 1.1 multiplied by load on the column divided by LBC. Here Ex is equal to mx divided by Pc, that is the moment along the x direction divided by Pc. So it is 70.20 mm. So either we can design footing as eccentric with uniform distribution of upward soil pressure, or eccentric load with trapezoidal distribution of load upward soil pressure. In both cases calculation is tedious. So instead of this we can consider the increase the load and then design as a footing subjected to axial load. This is more convenient method. Now in this case, due to eccentricity, actually this is the 50%, that is LF by 2. This distance is also LF by 2, but the column position is shifted somewhere here. This distance is Ex, and that's why the load distribution is uneven. It is not even, and this net upward pressure Q1 and Q2 is calculated as due to axial load P by A plus minus M by Z. M is equal to PE divided by Z, and Z is equal to LF multiplied by BF square by 6. And so we have getting the formula Q1 Q2 is equal to P by A 1 plus minus, because P is common, 6E divided by BF, because Z is equal to BF multiplied by LF square divided by 6. So it is 6E divided by area, that is BF multiplied by LF is related with A and BF is left. So we get the upward pressure at one phase and second phase, maximum minimum. This value should not exceed shape bearing capacity, and this value should not be negative, non-zero. And this can be done by checking LF is equal to, this should be greater than equal to 6 times of Ex, and if the bending along the y direction, BF should be greater than equal to 6 times of Ey. Instead of this we have done this way. Take the load on the column. Actual load on column is 1150. Instead of this we have considered increase the load 33%. That's why 1.33 multiplied by 1150, it is 1529. So 1530 kilonewton is considered as the actual load or working load, and design axial loaded column without bending. Now this is the second step. Area of footing is equal to 10% as the load of the footing. So 1.1 Pc divided by Q0. So it is 8.415. Area of footing is equal to LF multiplied by BF, and that's why equating the offset of the footing beyond the face of column, as usual we get the LF is equal to BF plus 0.2, because the B is 300 mm and D is equal to 500 mm. Then from equation number 1 and 2 we get the value of LF and the BF. LF is equal to 3.01 and BF is equal to 2.81. So area of footing provided is equal to 8.46. Now the step number 3. Now this is the step number 4. Calculate the net upward pressure, that is the Qn is equal to 1.5 Pc divided by area of footing provided. It is 271.27 kilonewton per square meter. Then calculate the maximum bending moment. For the maximum bending moment, again we have considered the critical section at the face of the column. So MUX is equal to Q into BF divided by 8 LF minus D whole square. We get the MUX is equal to 600.29. Similarly, MUY is equal to, just replace this QU multiplied by, instead of BF there is a LF instead of LF we have BF minus D, here it is B. Rest of the thing is same. We get the MUY is equal to 643.02, and then calculate the effective depth of the footing from the bending moment consideration. This is the section where the bending moment is maximum because we have considered it is a cantilever beam fixed at this column. So here we have considered B dash, that means the offset. Here we have considered the certain offset to provide the centering for the extension of the column. So B dash is equal to B plus 2 times of offset, and this offset is generally taken as 50 mm. So dx is equal to under root of mu x divided by ru max multiplied by B dash. Ru max is equal to 2.76, B dash is equal to 400 because 300 plus 50 plus 50, and mu x is 600.29 10 to the power 6 Newton mm. We get the dx, and similarly we get the dy. It is 737.38 and here it is 623. So take the maximum value. It is 737.38. Say round up to 750. Now take the depth of the footing. Effective depth is equal to overall depth minus DC dash. Here clear cover is 50 mm and the diameter of main reinforcement is considered as 10 mm. So 10 by 2 5 plus 50, it is 55. So we get the 805 is the overall depth. Step number 7. Generally check for shear. Instead of check for shear, in most of the books we have it is given to find out the depth from the one way shear and the two way shear, but instead of that we have considered check for one way shear. If this is satisfied, then our D is set. Now the critical section is taken at a distance of D from the face of the support, and here dy is less than dx. We have considered the shear is critical about the y-axis, so we can find out the df using the same formula as explained in the first lecture. Then x1, this x1 is equal to, this distance is known, that is bf minus b divided by 2, that gives the this distance, and minus d, that gives the x1. So x1 is known to you. B1 is equal to, this is b1 from this point to this point, this distance is d, this is d, and this is capital D, so it is d plus 2 times of df. So b1 is equal to 1980. Then using the similarity of triangle, we have considered this is the triangular section. This distance is known to you. This distance is 0 because 150 is there, because df minimum is 150. So d1 minus df minimum divided by df minus df minimum is equal to x1 by bf minus b divided by 2. We get the value of d1, and from d1 minus dc dash we get the small d1, that is the effective depth at the critical section. Now nominal shear stress is equal to Vu1 is equal to net upward pressure Qu multiplied by Lf into x1. Then nominal shear stress is tau Vu1 is equal to Vu1 divided by B1 into D1. B1 is known to you. D1 is calculated from similarity of triangle. We get the tau Vu1 is equal to 0.378 Newton per m square. Assume Pt is equal to 0.65%, which is less than the Pt max, and therefore from the table number 19 we get the value of tau c 0.52, and Ks is equal to 1, page number 72. So we get the Ks multiplied by tau c, and tau Vu1 is equal to 0.378, which is less than 0.52. So it is safe. As this check is satisfied, depth from the one way shear is also safe. Then second check for the two way shear. It is called as the punching shear. This concentrated load, because of the heavily concentrated load, this portion may be punched in the footing, and that's why this is the critical section. Critical section is taken as a distance of d by 2 from the face of column, and from both the side we have considered critical section. So A2 is equal to this. A2 is equal to, this is A2, that is B plus this distance is d by 2, this distance is d by 2. So A2 is equal to B plus D, and B2 is equal to capital D plus d by 2 plus d by 2. So we get the A2 and B2. Similarly, X2 is equal to, repeat the same procedure, we get the BF minus B divided by 2 minus this distance, that is DF by 2. So x2 is known to you, then perimeter is equal to 2 times of A2 plus B2. We get the perimeter. Now Again, similarity of triangle, we find out the D2, effective depth at the critical section. And then VU2 is equal to Q upward pressure into LF by BF, that is the area of footing, minus A2 by B2, critical section. We get the VU2. Once we get the VU2 divided by perimeter into diameter D2 depth, we get the tau VU2. Then VU2 is equal to 0.760. Then from the page number 58 and 59 IS 456-2000 clause number 30.6.3, tau c is equal to 0.25 times root FCK for limit state method. So tau c is equal to, it is 1.118. Ks is equal to 0.5 plus beta, and this beta is equal to B by D for the column, which is 0.60. 0.5 plus 0.60, it is 1.1, which is greater than 1, so we can take Ks is equal to 1. So tau VU2 is less than Ks times tau c. So we can say that the whatever the depth we have provided, it is okay, there is no problem. So the size of the footing is LF by DF is equal to 3.01 meter by 2.810 by 0.805 meter. Now this is the final dimension of the footing. Then calculate AST. ASTx is related with the MUx and ASTy is related with the MUy. So ASTx is equal to 3109.98 mm square. Then find out the numbers or spacing. Numbers is equal to this AST divided by area of 1 bar. 28 bars are there. So provide 16 bars. Sorry, here we can provide the 28 bars of 10 mm diameter, or we can find out the spacing, that is equal to 107.50. So 10 mm diameter at 105 mm center to center along the shorter span LX. Similarly, along y direction, we can find out the AST and find out the numbers here 25. Then we can find out the spacing using the same procedure. Then we can find out the AST provided in the central band width, because the footing is rectangular. So it is AST in the central band divided by AST along x direction is equal to 2 by beta plus 1, and this beta is equal to shorter dimension divided by longer dimension of the footing plus 1, page number 65. So we get the 0.965. So ASC is equal to, we have provided the 27 numbers. So there is no problem. Check shape for transfer of the load at the column base. Again we can find out the A1, that is equal to LF by BF, area of footing, or B plus 4 times of DF by D plus 4 times of DF, whichever is less. Then A2 is equal to area of the column, and then under root of A1 by A2, it should be less than or equal to 2. So we can take the 2 as the value is more than 2. Then actual bearing pressure should be less than or equal to permissible bearing pressure. This is the check for the bearing pressure. Now PU by BD, that is equal to 1.5 into total load. We have considered 1530 divided by cross section of the column, which is less than or equal to 0.45 FCK 20, and under root of A1 by A2 is 2. So it is 18, and here actual bearing pressure is 15.30. So it is safe. Then last is the development length. Development length on tension side and the length of the bar available is 1305, and the requirement is only 470 mm. So there is no problem. This is about the design of the footing. Now in this case, instead of considering the uneven distribution of upward pressure, we have considered the even distribution of pressure. Footing is subjected to the axial load, and this will be done by increasing the load by 33%. Thank you very much.